Yes, I can.
We'll do a redo.
No, there's no redo.
But we're gonna also go distance.
There's no distance. I can't go distance. No, we said it's a race.
Maddie's been actually training to run a marathon, so I think she was talking about it, and I think David, in his true fashion, is like, well, I could run a marathon. He's charming, but he definitely has an ego.
But he's going to pull a hamstring. Hey, you're an endurance race.
Hey,
I'm like a cheetah.
Do you think this is like Maddie challenging you? Do you think this is like a rite of passage?
I don't know if it's a rite of passage.
The latest episode revealed how much tension still exists between Janelle and Christine. At first glance, it might look like they are just processing grief, but the truth is that their issues go back decades. They've always had very different personalities. Janelle is quiet, thoughtful, and prefers to keep to herself, while Christine has always been expressive, outgoing, and dramatic. Janelle often admitted that she felt embarrassed by Christine's loud and theatrical ways, even referring to her as a princess or diva. On the other side, Christine has described Janelle as controlling. In her book, Christine even wrote that she felt Janelle took advantage of her, especially when it came to childcare. Janelle worked, but Christine ended up managing both her own kids and much of Janelle's responsibilities at home, which created resentment. This tension resurfaced when Christine explained why she didn't want to live at Coyote Pass or share one big house with the others. She worried it would drag her back into those old patterns, where Janelle would start a big project, like planting a garden, and Christine would be the one expected to actually do the work and keep it alive. Christine grew tired of always carrying the load while being mocked as a princess. Their shared history is complicated, but for years their kids kept them connected, and toward the end of their marriages with Cody, they bonded over their mutual frustration with him. That common ground brought them closer, but it didn't erase the years of strain. Now that Christine has remarried and Janelle is finding her own path, the cracks show again. Janelle avoids direct confrontation, yet in her interviews she slips in comments that feel sharp and passive-aggressive. Christine picks up on this easily, and whether it comes from insecurity or old bitterness, she reacts. Both of them have admitted in interviews that maintaining their friendship has taken serious effort. Their history makes it difficult not to interpret things personally, especially with producers pushing them with questions. In this episode, Christine even hinted at a little jealousy when Janelle talked about her new place in North Carolina. She tried to downplay it, but her tone suggested mixed feelings. Janelle, in turn, responded with subtle digs. The episode also showed Janelle speaking about David, Christine's husband. Janelle described him as confident and charming, but also said he had an ego. She compared his personality to Cody's, pointing out that both men have big presences and love being the center of attention. David comes across as playful, always joking or turning things into competitions, especially with kids. At one point, when he called himself a cheater, it seemed like a light-hearted moment, but Janelle's commentary made it sound like she saw it as arrogance. The way she phrased it, praising him first, then adding, "But he has an ego," gave the impression she was trying to soften a criticism. This mix of compliments and subtle jabs is exactly how Janelle tends to deal with Christine. It shows that beneath the surface smiles and shared memories, their relationship is still full of unresolved tension, with old wounds resurfacing whenever one of them pushes too far. Janelle's way of describing David felt strange and almost unfair. She called him charming but quickly added that he has an ego, then used the word blustery to describe his personality. That word stood out because it doesn't just mean loud, it carries a negative tone. It suggests someone who talks big, acts overconfident, or tries to intimidate others without much substance behind it. In short, it paints a picture of someone all talk and little action. Hearing Janelle use it about David gave the impression that she wasn't really complimenting him at all. Instead, it felt like a subtle insult wrapped in nice words. She even compared David to Cody, saying both men had big personalities. But this comparison didn't really fit. Cody has a long history of arrogance and being unkind, while David comes across differently. David is playful, funny, and sensitive to Christine's feelings. He supported her during one of the hardest years of her life, when she was grieving Garrison's passing, even though he hadn't known Garrison well. That kind of compassion shows he's not just full of ego or bluster. He seems to enjoy engaging with kids, joking around, and making things light-hearted. That's very different from Cody's self-absorbed energy. Christine herself seemed caught off guard when asked about the comparison, almost confused, like she didn't really see David and Cody as similar. To her, David's confidence feels warm, not arrogant. This moment highlighted a pattern with Janelle. She often says something positive, but then adds but followed by a phrase that takes away the kindness. It's a passive-aggressive style of communication, and it stirs up tension. That tension came up again, when the discussion shifted to land in North Carolina. Janelle wants to turn Tartar Farms into a family gathering place, but Christine couldn't help making jokes about it, even saying they could have a competition over who attracts more family visits. She admitted Janelle was winning, but her words carried a sharp edge. Christine also pointed out the reality: the land is still raw and undeveloped. It takes years to clear, build, and bring in utilities, and progress has been slow. From her perspective, it felt like Janelle was taking over something that had always been Christine's role, being the one who kept the family connected. Christine has always been the one to host, plan, and make family spaces welcoming, while Janelle has typically been more about ideas than execution. Christine's reaction may come from feeling like her place in the family is being overshadowed. At the same time, Janelle doesn't appreciate Christine downplaying her vision. She sees the farm as a future hub, even if it will take years to build. Still, both women are caught in this back and forth, constantly comparing who does more or whose vision matters more. Christine has achieved a lot recently, writing a best-selling book, building a home, investing in vacation rentals, and gaining independence. Janelle talks about big plans too, but her follow-through has often been inconsistent. The rivalry between them seems almost ingrained. Even when they laugh or support each other, the competition sits just under the surface. They aren't best friends, and maybe they never will be. What they are is family, linked by years of shared history, mutual kids, and complicated marriages to Cody. Their connection feels less like chosen friendship and more like a bond they can't escape, one that comes with both affection and rivalry. The best way to describe Christine and Janelle's connection is that it feels like a sibling bond. You love your brother or sister, but that doesn't mean you always get along with them. That's what their relationship looks like. They aren't blood sisters, but they spent decades living as part of the same family, and much of that time was spent competing for Cody's attention. When you step back, it's almost like sibling rivalry that has shifted into a new stage, more like a rivalry between two women who were once wives in the same household and now carry that history into their current lives. The competition may not be direct anymore, but it still lingers beneath the surface. You can see it in the way they comment about each other, sometimes with humor, sometimes with irritation. They can laugh together, but then one of them makes a remark that cuts a little deeper. It's subtle, but it's there. Just like siblings who argue over who's the favorite, or who gets more recognition, these two seem to fall back into that familiar pattern. The difference is that instead of fighting over a parent's love, they spent years fighting, silently or openly, for Cody's approval. Now, even without him in their daily lives, the tension still shows. Janelle, in particular, seems to be in a complicated place right now. She's had one of the hardest years of her life, and grief has clearly played a role in how she speaks and acts. It makes sense that she might be more sensitive, more defensive, or even more critical of others while she works through her pain. I can only hope that in time she finds peace and builds a future that makes her happy. She deserves that after everything she's been through. As for David, I still don't think the label of blustery fits him. The word itself suggests someone who's full of hot air, someone who covers weakness with loudness. That's not what I see in David. To me, he comes across as warm, playful, and willing to support Christine in ways Cody never did. He has a sense of humor and confidence, yes, but it doesn't feel harsh or empty. It feels genuine. Comparing him to Cody seems unfair because their energies are completely different. Cody often came across as arrogant and self-absorbed, while David seems to focus more on Christine's happiness and well-being. In the end, Christine and Janelle's relationship feels like it will always carry this push and pull. They are tied together by years of shared experiences, kids who connect them, and a history that can't simply disappear. That doesn't mean they are best friends, or even close in the way some might imagine. It just means they are bonded, like siblings, through both love and conflict. Sometimes they'll laugh together, and sometimes they'll clash. That's their reality. If you notice these dynamics too, I'd love to hear your perspective. Do you see the same rivalry that I do? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future updates.